It's an ordinary Tuesday morning, and two versions of you wake up in two different rooms. One of you opens your eyes slowly. No alarm. Sunlight on the wall. The whole day belongs to you. The other you is already awake in the dark, reaching for the phone, heart tight, doing math before your feet even touch the floor. Same face, same dreams, the same exact salary, earned over the same exact years. Only one thing was ever different between the two of you. One of you started building wealth in your 20s. The other one waited until your 30s. That's it. That's the entire difference. 10 quiet years, and by the end of this video, you'll see exactly how those 10 years grew into two completely separate lives, inside the same body, walking the same streets, under the same sky. Because the moment these two lives split apart is not the moment you think. Let's go back to where it begins. Age 22. You're young. You don't have much. A first real job, a small paycheck, rent that swallows most of it before you've even spent $1 on yourself. One version of you makes a small, almost invisible decision. You take a little off the top before you can miss it. Not a lot, the price of a few dinners out each month. You put it somewhere quiet, where it can grow, and you leave it alone. It feels pointless, like dropping a single coin into an ocean and waiting for the tide to rise. The other version of you looks at the exact same paycheck and says something that sounds completely reasonable. Later, when I earn more, when things settle down, when it actually matters. Right now there's barely enough, and life is for living. And here's the thing, both of you feel fine. Both of you are right for now. Nothing visible has changed. You go to the same parties. You drive the same car. You sleep just as well. That is the first trap. The single most important decision of your financial life is the one that feels like it doesn't matter at all. Age 25. 3 years have passed. Look at the two of you now. You can barely tell them apart. The early starter has a small pile of money that grew a little, dipped a little, and mostly just sat there quietly. The one who waited has more cash in their pocket, a nicer phone, a few better weekends, a little more freedom to say yes on a Friday night. If anything, the one who waited looks like they're winning. This is the part nobody warns you about. The early years feel slow. They feel like nothing is happening. Like you gave something up and got nothing back. And this is exactly where almost everyone quits. They look at 3 years of effort. They see a number that barely moved, and they decide the whole thing was a lie. A scam for people who already had money to begin with. But underneath the surface, something has already started moving. Slowly, silently. The early starter isn't just building a balance. They're building an engine, a habit that runs on its own, and a clock that has already started ticking in their favor. You just can't see it yet. That's the whole point. By the time you can see it, it's almost too late to start. And here's the part that makes it so dangerous. The early starter didn't do anything heroic. They didn't earn a fortune or take a wild risk. They just made one boring decision once, and then automated it so they'd never have to find the willpower again. Every month, before the money could turn into something to spend, it quietly turned into something that grows. They removed themselves from the decision entirely. That's the trick the late starter keeps trying to win with discipline. When discipline was never the real weapon. Time was age 30. Now it gets interesting. The version of you who waited finally begins. 30 feels like the real start. The career is solid. The income is higher. The excuses have run out. And now, finally, you're serious. And here's the cruel twist. You're putting away more than the early starter ever did. You're trying harder. You're more disciplined. You're reading the books, watching the videos, doing everything right. It feels like you're catching up fast, but the early starter has something a bigger paycheck can't buy. 8 years. 8 years of money quietly working in the background. 8 years of growth that already happened and can never be lived again. The late starter is sprinting. The early starter is barely moving and still pulling ahead. This is the thing that breaks people's brains about money. Growth isn't a straight line. It's a curve. For years it looks almost flat, so flat it feels broken. And then it bends upward, gently at first, and then steeply, and then it goes nearly vertical. The early starter is already standing on the part of the curve where it starts to bend. The late starter is back at the flat beginning, doing the hardest, most thankless work, the part that feels like pushing a boulder that won't move. Same curve, just 10 years apart on it. And those 10 years are the difference between the flat part and the steep part. For the first time, the gap becomes real. Not in the headline number, not yet in the feeling. The early starter already has a cushion, a safety net, the quiet confidence of a person who knows, deep down, that they'd be okay if everything went wrong tomorrow. The one who waited is still pouring the concrete for that floor, hoping it sets before the next storm. Age 35. This is where the two lives stop looking like the same story. The early starter is standing inside a job they are allowed to leave. Sit with that for a second. They can say no. They can walk away from a bad boss, a toxic room, a dead-end role, because there's enough behind them to survive the fall. That was never really about money. That's about power over your own life. The one who waited is still careful, still calculating, still saying yes to things they'd rather refuse, because the cushion isn't thick enough yet, and one bad month could erase a year of progress. They want to take the leap, they just can't afford the landing. Same title, same salary, two completely different feelings walking through the same door on a Monday morning. And the gap in the accounts is no longer small. The early starter's money has begun to do something that feels almost unfair. It's growing faster than they can save. In a single year, the growth alone now matches what they used to set aside across several. The snowball is rolling downhill on its own now. The late starter is still shoving theirs up the hill by hand, one heavy push at a time. Age 40. Remember the two rooms from the very beginning of this video. This is where they appear. The early starter wakes up without an alarm. The mortgage is small or already gone. The kind of emergency that ruins most people. A broken car, a sudden bill, a lost month of work is for them just an annoying afternoon. They have options, real ones. Take a year off, change careers entirely. Start the thing they always talked about starting. Be there on a random Tuesday afternoon, not just on the weekends, when there's nothing left of them to give. Their money stopped being numbers a long time ago. Now it's something else. It's time. It's breathing room. It's the freedom to choose how they spend the one life they get. The one who waited is doing fine, genuinely fine. But fine is a smaller word than it sounds. The future still feels like a problem to be managed, never quite a thing to be enjoyed. Retirement is a question mark instead of a date on the calendar. And there's a low hum of pressure in the background that never fully switches off. Even on the good days, same age, same career. One of you owns your time, the other is still renting it back from the world, one paycheck at a time. And the distance between these two lives is now so wide that the late starter, working harder than they ever have, can see the early starter far ahead, but can no longer close the gap. Age 45. Now let's finally say the quiet part out loud. By now, the early starter's wealth isn't just a little bigger. In most real scenarios, it's several times larger. Not because they earned more, not because they were smarter, not because they got lucky or picked the perfect investment, only because they started 10 years sooner. That is the secret almost nobody truly feels until it's far too late. Time does the heavy lifting, not money. The early starter put in a little, for a long time. The late starter put in a lot, for a short time. And a small amount, multiplied by time, quietly beats a large amount multiplied by panic, almost every single time. But here is what I really need you to understand. The true gap was never the number in the account. The real gap was the years of sleeping through the night, the decade of being able to say no to the wrong things, the quiet certainty that you were going to be okay. It was the version of you that got to take the risk, make the leap, be present for the people you love, and breathe. That is the real cost of waiting, not dollars, life itself. And if that just landed a little too hard, I need you to stay with me because this next part is the part that actually matters. Maybe you're watching this right now and you are not 22. Maybe you're 30 or 35 or older, and a quiet voice just whispered that you already missed your window, that the good version of this story belongs to some younger you who doesn't exist anymore. I need you to hear this clearly. That voice is lying to you. Yes, the best time to start was years ago. That part is true, and pretending it isn't would help no one. But the single most expensive thing the late starter ever does is nothing at all. To freeze. To decide that because the perfect version is gone, they'll just keep waiting for a better moment. A moment that quietly never comes because the late starter still holds something powerful in their hands. They have today. And today, the math still works. The snowball still rolls. The habit still compounds. 10 years from now is going to arrive, whether you plant something or not. The only real question is whether the you on that morning wakes up in the bright room or the dark one. And the late starter is not powerless. Far from it. They usually earn more now than the early starter did at the beginning, which means they can save a bigger slice without it hurting as much. They can automate it tonight, so willpower never has to enter the picture again. They can refuse to let every raise turn into a nicer car and a bigger bill, and instead let those raises quietly feed the engine. And they have one more move the young version never had: patience on demand. They can choose to keep going past the point where most people stop and let their curve bend later, but just as steeply. The early starter had time as a gift. The late starter has to build it on purpose. It's harder, but it is absolutely not too late, and that's the truth hiding underneath all of this. This was never really a video about money. It's about which version of you gets to exist. Both of them are real. Both of them are possible. Right now they're standing at the exact same fork, in the same body, watching the same screen, hearing these same words. And the only thing that decides which one you become is what you do in the hours and days after this video ends. So let's go back to that ordinary Tuesday morning. Two versions of you. Two different rooms. The one who wakes up free and the one who wakes up afraid. Here is what no one tells you. That morning hasn't happened yet. Which room you wake up in is still being written. And the pen is in your hand right now. Today, the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is the breath you are taking as you watch this. So start small. Start unsure. Start later than you wanted to, if that's where you are. But start, because 10 years of quiet, boring, patient action is the closest thing to time travel you will ever be given. And the people who understand that, the ones who begin while everyone else is still waiting for the perfect moment, they are not lucky. They were just early. That is how the quiet rich are actually made. Not loud, not lucky, just early. and patient, and unwilling to wait for permission to begin. If this moved something in you, subscribe and stay close, because the next story shows you the other side of this exact one. The life that quietly waits. If you never learn how money works at all, you'll want to see it before you decide which room to wake up in. New stories from the other side. Every day. I'll see you at the next level.